Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to Journey Through the Innerverse. Hi, Alexis.
Hello. Hello. How are you doing tonight?
We're gonna get into the energy. Yeah, we've talked a little bit about how I'm doing, and we're gonna spare all of you, but we're gonna talk about the energy. It is a lot. But how are you, Alexis?
I am doing okay. I'm definitely feeling like I'm at the tail end of my whatever I call it. It was like the flu and then a respiratory thing, and now I have like tonsil things, and like I feel like I'm like right there
Mm,
at the end of feeling kind of crappy. But other than that, I feel pretty okay. Yeah.
yeah, no, I wasn't under the weather last time we spoke. So we did a little bit of a check-in, even though we weren't live for our previous episode. It was an archive chat. However, Alexis and I got together and just checked in with the energy and gave you guys an introduction. And we were both in a pretty rough spot.
Oh my God.
And
Yeah.
my daughter was sick at the time. She's still kind of getting over it, but now I have whatever she has. So I might sound a little congested here. And as of today, my throat is on fire. Like my throat's really dry and sore. And of course, I know, like I said, I have a cold right now. So it definitely is due to that. But I think it's really interesting that you mentioned that you had some throat issues because it's really no coincidence or there's a synchronicity here with the cosmic climate that happens, like the exact alignment of Moon and Venus is happening. We're recording this on December 4th, I should say, and it's 9:04. And that exact
Mhm.
conjunction is happening at 9:17 p.m. here, Eastern time, between the Moon and Venus. And the reason why I'm pointing this out because it is really important that the Moon Venus conjunctions to Venus's overall cycle with the sun and the spiritual practice and the myth that goes along with her journey. And every time the moon and Venus meet when she is visible in the sky, there is essentially they're meeting at a moon gate. And in spiritual practice, it highlights a specific chakra center. And in this case, they met at the gate of communication. And therefore, it's bringing our focus to our throat chakra. So the previous month, it was the heart. Now we're moving up, and the focus is on the throat. So there is a focus on your expression, how you express yourself, communicate. Also, maybe we need to speak less and listen more, which is something that I've been feeling for myself personally and been sharing. And being that the moon is in her waxing crescent phase, we're energizing this chakra, right? We're gaining power. And so naturally, we want to balance out whatever the energy is that our default is, if that makes sense. So, like,
Mhm.
if we are talking a lot, we want to balance that out by like speaking less and such. And I talk a lot, not at people, but I show up in social media doing
Mhm.
live chats like this. And so I'm like, okay, I need to like listen more and, take time with that. And so I don't think it's a coincidence that you're also like, oh, there's like a little bit of heat here.
It's so funny and so weird. And too, Mercury went into retrograde on Monday and of last week, not this week.
Hmm.
And that's when I first got sick. And the fact that
Right.
like I'm still dealing not I mean, I'm not just dealing with sickness with the Mercury retrograde, like I'm having technological issues.
Yeah.
I'm having things catch up. My check engine light just came on. Like
Yeah.
different little things that are just like
Yeah, the
showing up
energy
all
is
at
crazy.
once. And it's very chaotic. And it's kind of like these little lessons are like, well, deal with it and move forward. And,
Yeah.
the best that I can do. But I'm like, please, like I'm good with lessons.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of energy in this space. And this has been a really very typical Mercury retrograde. I've been seeing it with a lot of people, and today
So
specifically,
typical. It really is.
yeah, it's pretty crazy, especially with the throat and the communication. And yeah, I've just today specifically is a very, very charged up day. And then we're leading into the Mercury retrograde Kazemi. And so tonight, I personally am going to do some dream incubation with this energy. And I know some of you are here live. Shout out to Jace. Jace says hello, Urania and Alexis.
Hey,
It's been so
James.
long. I caught you
It
in two
has been
places.
long.
So this is great. Yeah. So some of you will see this before the Kazemi, maybe, but if not, it's always a perfect time to do dream incubation.
Absolutely. And I'm definitely going to do the dream incubation tonight. I'm really excited. I think I'm going to try to do like a request a specific thing because normally I'm just like, please bring me the messages that I need to receive tonight. But I think I have like a specific thing I'm going to ask tonight. And I'm really curious to see
Mm,
how that goes. And I'll mention towards the end of the episode when we're talking about our own dream space,
hmm
what that question is going to be.
Awesome. I'm excited. All right, so I'm really excited. I know Alexis is excited too about tonight's
Mm-hmm.
chat is going to be specifically on dream sharing. Hi, Mary. I'm glad you're here because I'm going to need
Hi, Mary.
your input with your input of your dream. So I'm really excited to see you here live. But yeah, so tonight we will focus on dream sharing, and we're going to actually do this once a month where we're going to ask or invite you all to share a dream with us or your dream theme for the month. And so, what we would like to do is we're going to reflect on the previous lunar cycle in these dream share episodes. So, this one's going to be a little unique because it's our first time doing it.
Mhm.
However, moving forward, say we just stepped into Sagittarius lunar cycle, we just had a Sagittarius new moon on December 1st. So that was Sunday. So basically, from new moon to new moon, we invite you to pay attention to your dreams, record your dreams, or record the emotions, the feelings, any themes maybe that start to come up over and over again as you move through the lunar cycle. And then we're going to come back after that cycle is ended and we're going to share our dreams. We're going to share the themes or any dreams that, you have that you want to share specifically. We also, of course, always invite you to just share any dream that you want. So maybe if you didn't have time to be present with your dreams during that cycle, or there's a dream that you really would like our insight on and our interpretation, then you can always share your dream. And the dream share episodes will be dedicated to sharing what you submitted and sharing our interpretation and having a live chat about it. Is there anything you want to add to that, Alexis?
I'm really excited for this new segment that we're going to be touching upon each month. I really love the observation aspect of seeing how each moon cycle, like what our dreams entail, how our dream space is, and how it correlates to the astrological changes and cycles. Us both being, more inclined to like the balance between science and spirituality. I'm sure you're feeling that excitement for experimental like working as well where like it really is it's an experiment in itself and it's observating or observing, oh my god, I just make up words sometimes, I swear. Well, just observing the space and seeing how it correlates with the changing of the astrological signs. I'm excited to hear your dreams and I'm excited to help interpret them. So please send us, a dream or your dream theme at the, for the cycle. And we can share it on here and explore further.
Yeah, so you can submit your dream to the innerversepodcast at gmail.com. I don't know why I always struggle with that. But the information is in the caption of the videos always. All right, so we have a dream share from a listener. And Alexis, you want to read this one for us?
Yep. So I'm really excited about this one. I read it. I immediately I had my own ideas and interpretations pop up, and I'm excited to explore it. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this one. The dream is from one of our listeners. Her name is Courtney. So here I go. This dream was either on April 4th or 5th of 2020. So think peak COVID. The dream starts with her and I in a room, and this is her meaning her grandmother. The dream starts with her and I in her room in her home. She's in a wheelchair, though in waking life, in real life, before she passed away, she never had a wheelchair. And she pops herself out of the wheelchair and into her bed. She motions to come to sit with her. She's smiling. Her room and her energy feels warm, loving, inviting, and there's a pink energy around. I believe her blanket was pink too. The pink is more of an energy I feel in the room and around us. The room is warm, almost steamy like. The windows have condensation like it's been raining outside or there was a hot shower going. She asks me for something and I don't hear her. I ask her what she would like, then she says, sweet water. So I go to the store, but I have no idea what it is that I'm looking for. I don't find anything at the store, and then I go back to her place, a little worried because I don't have the sweet water. I think a part of me didn't want to ask her what it was because I'd feel like I was annoying her or being a burden on her. I'm back in my grandma's house and in her room. She didn't ask about the sweet water, but now she has a big lollipop. It's round with dark pink and light pink stripes. She invites me again to sit. She is smiling at me and she's so happy to be with me. In my dream, a part of me wants to cry and tell her about the changes in the world that are happening, quote unquote, or parentheses, COVID pandemic, as I mentioned in the beginning. But I hold it in because there's a part of me that feels like she won't understand. Kind of like she's coming with a wider perspective, and to her, this is just a blip in time. So her and I are just there with each other. She feels so comforting to me, almost like I don't actually need to tell her what is happening in the world. I'm sitting at the head of her bed towards the north, and she is sitting at the foot towards the south. Mm. What I've wanted to find out is what Sweetwater is, and why'd she ask for that? For context, the dream took place a few days before April 7th, full moon, known as the pink moon. April 7th is also my grandmother's birthday, so my great-great-grandmother. Another interesting thing to notice is that my grandmother's death anniversary is on April 8th, so very close to this dream date. My grandmother and I lived 500 miles apart, so I only saw her a few times a year. She was also very stern and had a temper and wasn't the loving, cuddly type of person like she was in my dream. But I do know that she loved me deeply and cared about me. So that was the end of the dream. I mean, the end of the dream, and then some of the description of what her grandmother was like, and just some references. I thought, especially with that information, that this dream was really, really about her almost. I felt like her grandmother was asking for forgiveness for the inability to express her true emotions, the inability to be soft and caring and supportive and loving in the way that she needed it to be. I thought it was interesting, the fact that she was in a wheelchair, and she wasn't in a wheelchair in real life. Mm-hmm. So when we think about the wheel, it represents the cycle of life and death and mortality. And it also represents, it also represents mortality and truth. While the chair represents power, support, and comfort. The wheelchair may represent a weakness or vulnerability. And I feel like that's something that comes with my interpretation of this dream being about her asking for forgiveness. Mm-hmm. When we think about like the color pink, and the energy being pink, the blanket being pink, pink can be interpreted in a couple different ways. Of course, love, passion, but also lighter pinks can be interpreted as a need for love, but having difficulty expressing it. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like, especially with the lollipop being both dark and light pinks, it really expresses like such
Mm-hmm.
strong amount of love that needs to come out, but a wall up, an inability to really break that out. um, and when the grandmother asks for the sweet water, to me it feels more like sweet water, like emotions,
Mm-hmm.
like forgiveness,
Mm-hmm.
for love, forgiveness, acceptance, that type of energy. But I also think it was really interesting the way that she talked about how she felt like her grandmother wouldn't understand because this is like a blip in time. So like if we think about this as
Yeah.
like a visit, the
Mm-hmm.
blip of time, maybe the timeline is too abstract for wherever you go after death, and you don't line up with how the time is represented in our waking room. So I thought that was a really interesting tidbit as well. What do you think? What's
Yeah, I
running through your
mean,
head?
this like hearing you read it just and being in this space, it literally gave me the peace I've been needing today. Like it
Love
felt
that.
so pure, so warm, so loving. And I felt that it definitely felt like a visitation dream. And it felt like her grandmother was there in her pure essence, right?
Yes.
Especially in that the wheelchair, I like how you brought that up as far as like what came through is like disabled, like that inability to possibly communicate that desire for support, the emotions, as you were mentioning, I really connected with that.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because the way she showed up in the dream was different from how she was in waking life. And there was some inability to be that soft, nurturing grandmother or maybe person in general. And there could have been, for her personally, like we won't know, but there could have been some regrets, right? So I like that you brought
Of
up
course.
the forgiveness
Mm-hmm.
and just that experience of the dream. There was so much sweetness, and I felt like that was a visitation and just she was showing up as she had desired to be, like how she would want to be as a grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I love the like you what you mentioned about pink, and I think with pink too, same thing, love, compassion, just this softness. Like everything about the dream felt soft, especially with the water, the essence of water, and it's kind of like everywhere. So there's like this almost like what came to mind is like a blanket of emotion or like just like this like
Yes.
the water felt cozy and even like sweet water. Like people,
Yep.
it's hard for people to drink water, but if you
Mm-hmm.
sweeten it a little bit, it makes it a little bit easier to, ingest. And so everything about this dream felt comfortable. Also, I know Courtney, you mentioned, and Courtney's actually here. She says, "Hi, all, excited to be here. Thank you for this work." And we're so excited that you're here. We're excited that you share this dream. So honored to that you would share. And this feels like a very special dream for sure. And we just, it's an honor to share and speak on it. So thank you so much.
Thank you
Um,
so much. And
yeah.
what that this immediately popped in my head, and I complete like it being the time around COVID, we have to think about too how stressed out a lot of us were, if not all of
Mhm,
us were, and not
mhm,
really knowing what was going to happen. And it was almost like in this time of desperation, your grandmother came through to be the grandmother she wasn't able to be when she was here,
mhm. Yeah.
and just engulf you in comfort and love to help you through this.
So I like that you brought in some spiritual context, which I have like a little bit of knowing about, but not a lot. But I like what you mentioned as far as with the sweet water, and it reminded you of Ocean, also, well, Ocean, which is a goddess, right?
Hmm.
Began to come to you in dreams, began to come to Courtney in dreams in 2020. So that's an interesting synchronicity there.
That
And
is an interesting
Ocean
synchronicity.
is, yeah, she is from the Yoruba tradition and rules over the sweet waters or fresh waters of the earth.
Hmm.
And so I really, really enjoy that connection, especially when, like you said, April 7th was the full moon. So shortly after that, it was a full pink moon. So there
Hmm.
was just like this very strong emotional goddess, like divine mother energy in this dream. And
Hmm.
I felt like that, yeah, I mean, that obviously facilitated your connection, I'm sure, moving forward with this goddess, who maybe appears in your dream quite often, moving forward. And so I really, yeah, I mean, that's kind of my understanding on it. And the Sweetwater, I think, because I know that was one of the things that maybe that really kind of, that was like one of the dream symbols that really stood out to you and something you think about probably quite often. And I would just say, for me personally, if that was something that was showing up in my dream consistently, and it was in connection to my grandmother that had transitioned, and just the energy that I'm feeling within the dream, I would incorporate that into some sort of ritual practice. Or that would just
Absolutely.
be something like drinking sweet water, or if I'm doing specific love, like self-care, self-love, like rituals or anything like that, I think to bring more illumination around that, I would just bring it into my waking life. Like, I'm like, okay, what is this sweet water, and playing around with it that way. Or you could also, ask for more insight. Or I know Jace is here, and Jace has mentioned in previous chats how, if there's a dream symbol that really that stands out to you really strongly, or you have like a strong connection to it, if you're able to lucid dream, when you find yourself in a lucid dream, maybe, manifest or conjure that symbol, right? So conjure, basically request a glass of sweet water and see what happens like in your lucid dream. I think that would be really interesting. So there are many, many ways to explore the dream symbol, but I mean, this really just, I felt the peace and the comfort and the love of that dream. And I could imagine how that felt, receiving that in the middle of a pandemic. So,
Absolutely. The warmth and the comfort and the love. Everybody needed that in 2020. Everybody needed
yeah.
that. And
And
you know,
grandma
the way that
showed
it
up for
came
you?
through for you is just so beautiful. And I just love that it was your grandmother who in it when she was still here didn't show this type of emotion
Yeah.
despite loving
It's
you.
really
Like
interesting.
that
Yeah.
that to me is so interesting. And I almost feel like there's not she's not leaving anything behind, unresolved. It
Yeah.
feels more, I don't know. She
It just
feels
feels
like
pure.
it
Yeah. It's
feels so
like,
pure. It feels like
yeah.
completely, oh, it's incredible. That was such an incredible
And
and beautiful dream.
it's that feeling that you hear or read about where it's like, we're all love, we're all, that like pure essence of ourself, just the pureness of our soul, of our spirit is love, is that nurture, that compassion, that sweet water. And so that's kind of what I got from that. So Courtney, thank you. Courtney also commented here, so I want to share. Um, so Courtney says, I appreciate this. I hadn't thought about forgiveness piece, but it resonates with me, especially in terms of her challenges with her children and how they impacted my dad's ability to be a father. She had a lot of challenges being a mother. And thank you. I will do this more, embody Sweetwater in my life, based on what feels right while asking for more insights. Cool. I did have a very interesting dream 2 weeks ago after incubating a dream to learn more about Sweetwater. So that dream in this reading is giving me a lot to sit with. Awesome.
Ooh, oh,
Yeah, I
if you
love
feel
that.
comfortable, you're gonna have to share. And you know, of
Yeah.
course,
Oh
if you
my
feel
gosh, we
comfortable, you're
would
gonna have to
love to
share
know.
what you get from that. Ah,
Yeah.
this is so exciting.
I love when that happens. Yeah. Cool. And then Jace and Mary are both sharing their insights about basically the visiting and being a visitation dream, and yeah, just their insights. So thank you. Awesome. All right, so we're gonna continue with the dream sharing. And the rest of this is going to be a little bit interesting because we're going to basically share. We're not going to share a specific dream, or at least I don't think I am. I don't know, Alexis, if you have a dream specifically to share.
I'm
Um,
gonna touch upon like a couple
a
dreams,
couple.
but I'm not
Okay.
gonna do like
Yeah,
a
that's
full
that's kind
dream.
of what I'm going to do. And then Mary also, the way she shared her dream experience as of recently is going to be kind of in flow with how we shared. So, as we mentioned, what we're going to be doing monthly is that we're going to have these dream share chats, and we're going to reflect on the previous lunar cycle. So, new moon to new moon essentially is what we're going to, that is the duration of the lunar cycle. So we just came out of the Scorpio lunar cycle, since we just had the new moon in Sagittarius on December
Mm-hmm.
1st. So we're reflecting on Scorpio cycle.
Yep.
So we're going back to that. Scorpio can't get away from it. And
Nope.
so we're going to see what kind of dream themes came up in the kind of dreams we've been having. So, Mary, I'm glad that you're here, because I know you shared basically how, like, you didn't share specific dreams, but you shared like the energy of the dreams, or you, at least you spoke about the main theme of the dreams being very like prophetic and profound in a way that has expedited your own healing journey. The energy of the dream, the landscape, even you mentioned that there was like a lot of sunshine in your dreams. It just felt like it was a very like activating and uplifting dream experience that has really allowed you to kind of show up and shine your light in the spaces that you're in. Like it's basically like encouraging you to um be more in the spotlight, to be more visible, which I thought was interesting that in your just share of the description of the dream is that you mentioned the sunshine. And I think that was really interesting because everything that you shared about what you were doing and how you felt the inspiration to be present in that way was all about being the forefront and the leader and kind of the center of the different communities that you have that you participate in. um, and so you're here. If you want to share more in the chat of how that, like any more details you want to add, because I'm sure I didn't do it any justice. But I think that was kind of the overall theme for you for Scorpio season, as far as that, the recent dreams, that it's definitely picked up momentum and energy as far as your purpose and your service and community. So I'm just gonna scroll down and see. Yeah, so Mary went on a trip to Jamaica. Was that at the beginning of November? Right. So that was pretty much right around the new moon. Um, so since you've been back from that trip, which remind me when you got back, I want to say it's probably like 2 weeks ago. But since you've been back from the trip, you feel that you've been living what's been rolling like a reel of your manifestation, a lot of peace, harmony, and the go-to was me. Um, so yeah, that like it's basically you've picked up momentum, and it's been reflected through your dream space is kind of where I'm getting with that.
It's interesting that the travel, like the effect that travel has, going to different areas and seeing where your sleep space is, how your sleep space is affected. Um, I haven't traveled too much, but I imagine going from, you know, um, anywhere extreme from what you're used to can really affect the way that your dream space is. That's very interesting. And
Yeah.
also nice for you going to Jamaica. I'm sure that was amazing.
She goes like every year. I think, what is this your third year in a row going? I feel like, yeah, I feel like you've been 3 years in a row. And yeah, that's like really important when it comes to Like even with dream incubation, or if they say that if you really want some clarity or insight or even healing, sleep in a different place than you normally sleep. Like if you want that to receive that through dreams. And I feel depending on who you are, you don't really even have to do it intentionally. Like Mary, I know you're very spiritually connected. And so more than likely, I mean, it makes sense that you would receive the healing that you needed, that was necessary once you got out of your regular space and out of your usual sleeping space. And that's why, in ancient times it was said that they had dream temples and people would go there to receive healing or to gain those divine messages through their dreams. And the point was, going somewhere else. And of course, that type of scenery and that type of environment was very supportive to the healing and the intentions of what was being asked. And knowing you, Mary, being in Jamaica, that's a whole thing for you. Like, excuse me, and it's almost like a reset for you. And it's your vacation, it's nourishment, it's getting away from the daily grind. And so it makes so much sense how you had that you would have that experience. So thank you, Alexis, for pointing that out because I didn't even recall that.
I would love to experiment with that in the future, going somewhere that feels like a sacred space away from my space and seeing how my dreams are affected, if I'm more connected, if like, like Mary said, her dreams were more prophetic, more in uh, active, and I'd be interested to see how that affects my own space. So thank you, Mary, for sharing that and popping the idea in my head.
Right. And Mary says it keeps continuing nightly, and I don't usually remember dreams, so it's a big deal. I was back November 14th, and I don't feel present. I feel as if I'm living my dream. I'm less and less interested in our usual day to day. A lot of healing this time in Jamaica. Yeah, so
Yeah, you might really
wow.
just need the rest, you
Right. And
know.
also it was her birthday too.
Yes, and happy
And
birthday, belated.
so it was her birthday when, while she was in Jamaica, I believe, yeah, while you were in Jamaica, it was your birthday. And so there was already that whole reset and stepping into a new year. So it
Wow.
all makes complete sense. And it's like you literally shed something and now you're stepping into your dream, which sounds amazing.
I know a few people who go on trips for their birthday every year, and I think that might be something I might start to do for that reset,
I
for the
know.
beginning of the new solar cycle, that new year. That might be something that I'm going to work towards, because I think it is extremely beneficial. I mean, everybody I talk to who does this, they feel so good.
Yeah.
And that I feel like it's the right time, a great time to process things and be with yourself and be with the existence, and just get ready for this new journey.
Yeah. So, Alexis, do you want to go ahead and share your dream theme? Like, or what's been
Sure,
going on over the
yeah.
past lunar cycle?
So this has been a very interesting lunar cycle, very active. It definitely got higher intensity with the Mercury retrograde. But I would say the themes for this past cycle has been visitation, life and death, and family.
Hmm.
I had dreams where several dreams now where my grandfather has visited. Um, the one I had shared prior, I was at my grandparents' house. My grandmother was there physically, but my grandfather was there with just his essence. A lot of family was over, but they were kind of like talking to my grandmother like she was a child. And then they would talk to each other about her in front of her. And it was like really degrading and frustrating. And I knew she was frustrated, and her and I kind of locked eyes and kind of like recognized between the two of us that this is ridiculous. And I kind of had enough of the way that the family was acting. So I followed the essence down the hall to my grandfather's room where he was like hanging out. And I got on the subject of talking about his astrological date time because I don't know it. So that was one of them. I had another visitation dream where it actually started off with a religious, spiritual conversation with an old coworker. And then there was this like idea of this baby being presented to me. And then the dreamscape kind of being like, well, now you have to work for this child. And my energetic self separated from my physical self, and I was in the point of view of my energetic self. My physical self was pushing out a baby, but it wasn't a baby. It was like a tree. It was like a tree form, and like I couldn't feel anything, but I was helping and assisting. And then I got a call, like right after that happened, I got a call from my dad to visit my grandparents, and we
Like
walked
in
to
the
my
dream, right?
yeah, in the
Okay.
dream. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. So we walked to my grandparents' house. I was with like a bunch of family, and it was like the area, but like kind of cobblestoney, kind of like mashing of the timelines. And when we got to the house, there was like a buffet set outside their room. My grandfather and grandmother were both there. My grandmother physically and my grandfather energetically, but more physically than the dream prior.
Mm-hmm.
And they were all both kind of like moody, and I was just like helping my grandfather and my grandmother with different things. My grandfather kind of lashed out at me and then felt really guilty and apologized, like telepathically, like we kind of looked at each other and he did that. And then I went out of the room and just like got myself a slice of pizza, was like trying to decompress. That was one. And then the most recent one I had, I was at my grandparents' house, and my grandmother and my grandfather were both sitting in like on their old couch together. My grandmother was crocheting, which she doesn't do, and it was so funny because I was watching her like crochet this like sock, and it had like this like cute little emblem that she anyway. Um, and they were really worried about the dogs getting out of the house. But I wasn't concerned about that because I was worried about the flooding that was occurring outside.
Mm-hmm.
There was this like breakage in their driveway that just flooded, and I mean flooded the whole area. So there were firefighters and whatnot kind of like sucking the water up. And I went outside, and there were these like UFO type things. And
Interesting.
I went back inside. I like grabbed the dogs, and then I went outside, and I started driving the truck away, but then the truck flipped over, and I like crawled out of the truck as if nothing happened. And these UFOs actually came down into the like yard, hovering above the yard, and they were like they were actually like kind of like alien crossbreed spaceship type things, like more human size, a
Mm-hmm.
little bigger. And I went to like climb on in the back of the truck, like another truck, and it like put its fingers out and just zapped me, and then I woke up.
Whoa.
Um,
How did you feel
I
after that? Like when you woke up in waking life?
I was kind of just like, what the hell? Like I was just like, what? It was just a lot of chaos, like just a lot of chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And I have dreams about both my grandparents' houses, but this one has been more recent.
Mm-hmm.
And like there are some times where the basement is like an entryway to hell, or like it's a very interesting collection of energies. It's almost like the house itself enters different timelines and locations every single time I'm there. So it's the house,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like moving through
Wow.
different dimensions or something. It's very interesting, like kind of
Did
like an
you spend like a
HQ.
lot of time at that house? Is that your comfort place at all, or?
It was one of my comfort places growing
Mm,
up, but it's
okay.
interesting because I have a lot, like almost an equal amount of my other grandparents' house,
Mm,
and I didn't spend a whole lot of time there.
interesting.
So it's an
The one that's showing up a lot more, is that was it your grandfather's? Like the one that,
past, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I
Mm,
know that like
interesting.
me and my grandfather had a very interesting relationship. Distant, but like we kind of got each other, like we kind of understood each other. Like we both are kind of like loners and can occupy ourselves with infinite amount of time and not really bothered if like we homebodies and just
Mm-hmm.
doing a bunch of
Your
different
own
things.
bubble. You're good with all of your things and like
Yeah, and I feel
you're
like
in a
I
happy
have
space.
like
Yeah.
I feel like, I mean, same with my grandmother who passed away. Like, we are similar in a different way. Like, more like, I don't know, like energetically kind of chaotic and fun and goofy and like, but um, it's interesting the way that this grandfather is showing up so frequently.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and I've been having not only that, but I've been also having kind of like odd type of void unknown dreams.
Mm-hmm.
So like I had a dream about being kind of in the back rooms type of energy, but it was like eerie, but I was also like auditioned for a musical and got the part and was like super excited. So like even though I was in this space that was unnerving and uncanny, I was like having the best time.
Mm.
Um and then
Do you feel, oh, go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say to end the
Mhm.
this converse well this kind of cycle this cycle to end the cycle, I ended up having a dream that I had that reoccurred. So I've
Mhm.
only had this dream one other time, and it was an old friend of mine and a couple other people in an art room. We all have our own easels and our own desks, and we're kind of like scattered. The art room is two rooms, but one of it is closed off, and you can see through the windows that it's pitch black. So, in order to get us prepared for our next assignment, the teacher gives us like booklets that are post mortem. And in my mind's
Mm.
eye, I watched this one person who was my old friend take this to the bathroom and sit there and read it and kind of like mentally struggle through it and break down to a point where they're kind of like shattered. When they come back, there's just energy shift and it's really cold.
Mm.
And we're looking at her and she's just very quiet. And then we look, there's like a lot of wind in the room, and we look, and the doors are now open to that other half of the room. And when we look back at her desk, she's gone. And that was like that part of the dream that really stuck out to me. And that was probably the last dream that I had for the lunar cycle.
Interesting. That's like, so do you have like, I know the cycle just ended. Was there any type of like revelation or inspiration that like after this cycle of dreams, and I think this is something that we'll probably notice more and more as we do these dream shares, you feel like inspired to do something, or did you feel an impulse? I know you and I both had a creative like
Yes.
surge right after that. So I think it's interesting that you were like it ended kind of in this like dark space and like you were in a creative and like a art environment. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there was like any other like reveals or anything that happened that kind of, you had a profound, just like aha moment from those series of dreams.
I just feel like this end of the cycle, this new moon that just occurred was a huge release. I
Hmm.
felt a lot of weight fall off my shoulders. I feel like I am just lighter.
Yeah.
Creativity is higher, my confidence is higher, and I just feel like I've stepped through the door and I'm
Hmm.
on the pathway to like my next door.
Yeah.
And you know, my ideas are coming through really intensely, and I feel a resurgence of like my passion, um which I appreciate, because it can be really difficult to continue to do things when like that energy waxes and wanes depending on where I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the resurgence of confidence and passion and energy and just feeling this overall kind of glow has impacted me and definitely has shown me that this last cycle was really about moving forward through things.
Yeah.
Because the dreams about my grandfather and my grandmother, like I've been tackling a lot of emotions around where my grandparents are at right now in their lives, and how, I feel about myself, and if I show up enough. And there's certain aspects of this that I feel like I've been struggling with, that my grandfather has helped me through in these dreams, kind of like been there to pull me through
Mm-hmm.
whatever I'm going through. I feel like the fact that I had dreams about things that I am passionate about, art and acting and musicals. I feel like that's put it kind of shining a light in my face to pursue things more that make me happy, that spark joy in my brain.
Mm-hmm.
And that last one of that old friend, I almost feel like it wasn't a scary dream,
Yeah.
but really a dream of like, this is not my problem. This is not something I need to deal with. This
Mm-hmm.
is their issue, and they're going and dealing with that. And it's not a part of my knowledge anymore. This, it
Mm-hmm.
has nothing to do with me. So that void is the unknown in which she went, that I don't need to be a part of. Like, I don't need to go.
Mm-hmm.
So I really felt
Yeah.
just a strong release, and I'm very thankful for
Yeah.
it, because I love the lightness that you feel after that release.
Yeah. And I felt that was just such a symbolic dream to have kind of at the end of that cycle, because I'm sure that was kind of along the lines of like the precipice between like the dark moon in Scorpio and coming into the new moon in Sagittarius. And so it is like you're stepping into the darkness, and on the other side is a new beginning, and you're also kind of shedding as as you're moving through the darkness, or like the void, so to speak. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so that really is profound.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's
And
cool.
to go back to what I was talking about in the beginning with my intention for dream incubation, I'm going to ask my grandfather for his time of birth. And I'm
Yeah.
going to see if it comes through, because I really want
Nice.
to dive a little deeper into that.
That's a good one. Yeah, I'm excited about this. I was already excited when you had the initial dream. I was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna find out. You're gonna get it at some point. It's just a matter of when. So this is really exciting.
I know, I'm excited and I hope it comes through, but we'll see. So, how has your dream space been this cycle?
So this is really interesting, this theme of visitation. I know like what stood out to me, well, overall, my dreams have been, there's been a lot of focus on relationships, which that's not like uncommon for my dream space. It's been mostly very detached as far as like my emotional response to it in the dream and outside of the dream, which is a
Mm-hmm.
big shift from my dreams, before, like previously. So there's been a lot of growth there. However, I've seen with my relationship with my grandmother, and that specifically being the visitation there, that's always like a wax and wane type relationship. And what I mean by this is like in the dreams, like sometimes I'm like, ooh, let's connect. Like, let me ask you questions. Or it's just like her energy's there and is very supportive and I welcome it. And then other times she's there, like her essence is there, and I'm like in fear or I'm running away. And so I did share a dream a few episodes ago. And I think this was like at the beginning of Scorpio season, where I was in my front yard with my daughter. We were like doing like using like the sidewalk chalk. And I had heard my neighbor's door open, and in waking life I knew she was out of town. And so in the dream, that conscious knowing came through, and so I like heard the door, and this is when, pretty much I was lucid. um I was like, wait, she's out of town, so who's coming out of her house? And I looked, and it was my grandmother. And that, seeing her, like I froze, like I was in fear, and I was in the flight, I got to get out of here. And in that dream, in that same experience, I'm running, or not running, but like I'm like telling my daughter, like, we got to get up, we got to go. And as I'm going to the door, which is not a far distance, but it seems like it's taken a really long time to get there, I was pursued by a man who was holding a white, or I don't know, did I say it was white? Maybe that's something that's coming through, but a white book apparently that said nursery rhymes. And then I think I had a dream a couple days with her in it. And it like throughout this cycle, it's been the same kind of energy where I'm in fear of her. And let me just glance and see if I don't know if I wrote this dream, but I can remember the gist of it. And this was like no, it wasn't the last time she was in my dream, but um, the other dreams that I've had with her in it recently have been kind of hazy, and probably because I've been so distant from her showing up in my dreams. But basically, this last dream, she was kind of, her essence was there, but she wasn't like really there. And my mom was there. And my mom was talking about my grandmother and how she was like, oh, well, she's just a ghost, or basically it was something along the lines where she's a bound spirit to the earth, so to speak, and her spirit's like in trouble. And this was really tricky for me because I have my own conscious thoughts about my grandmother having unfinished business,
Mhm.
and I am the one, more so because everyone else is really not accessible, at least they're not communicating. So who knows, like maybe with my mother does share that she dreams, my grandmother shows up in her dreams a lot, but my mom's very secular. She's not gonna like do rituals and like, oh, I gotta like do this thing and go on this hunt to like help. So it's like really me. And so basically, yeah, I have my own conscious theory that she has unfinished business, and I'm here to, help kind of bring things to close. And there's a whole thing. And my grandmother is definitely my spirit guide. And so I haven't had a dream in the recent period time that it's been a good dream with her. Like I'm like welcoming her spirit, her energy. But what really came out of this whole cycle is that, and this came forth through like tarot readings that I've had post the dreams, and also pick a card readings that I just randomly, people that I like, um, and I'll watch their readings. Like people I've watched for years, and the readings are on point. And one reading recently was about a lost loved one wanting to communicate. And it was like the same message of this spirit's like heavy or in trouble and whatever. So, long story short, where I am on the other side of this is that I have felt that I've built up the courage at this point to read my grandmother's journals that are willed to me, basically. And there's one specifically I have on my computer that my mom transcribed that was like, she was somewhat like changing, like writing it into a book to help people. And because the whole like vibe around it is the fight to live. It was basically um my grandmother's like the end of her life, and
Mm.
which is like I know is going to be such a profound, like this is probably the most profound of her writing, and she has recordings of dreams in this journal and everything. And my mom over time has shared with me little like excerpts from the journal, from her writing. And so I know that at this point I'm ready, and it's like I'm just getting a therapist, like I need support, but I think that is a really big step. And I know that my dreams as of recently have um, really have guided me to do this. Like it's time. And I, especially with seeing the way my dreams are going kind of back and forth with her appearance in the dreams, I think it's important for me to like peel back the layers a bit more. Especially because the therapist that I am considering she has a bit of experience with dream work, from the Jungian perspective. And so I hopefully, she takes my insurance and everything, and she has an opening because she's one of my like close friends therapists. So that is where I'm at with my dream space and what's come through Scorpio lunar cycle. And I'm definitely going to, I've already had some more reveals like literally today,
Mhm.
not through dreams, but just through readings and connecting with other people. And so it's very on point with Scorpio. I mean, we were talking about this whole cycle of life, death, and rebirth, and the ancestral connection and the visitations and like that very thin veil. And so, yeah, that's where I'm at. So we'll see how Sagittarius lunar cycle goes, and we'll definitely check in with everyone to see, yeah, what themes come forth and how it evolves as well.
I loved that. I loved that. Um, we definitely are on track with the visitation and learning these lessons. And I feel like your grandmother is coming through, like prepping you for this new journey that you're about to embark on, and guiding you in the just guiding you in the direction of it
Yeah.
was profound and beautiful. And even though you were still afraid in your dreams, I remember like there was some big moments in your dreams that came through, like specifically the one where like you wanted to run away, but you like didn't really run. Like it was like you wanted to run away from her, but you were more resistant to it. And like that's
Yeah.
really big because
Yeah.
even though you
Yeah.
were
Cause then when I was
scared,
like, I said hi, like I was like, hi,
yeah,
grandma. Hi,
yeah,
grandma. And finally
yeah,
she was like, hi. It was like very distant. Yeah. So
yes,
that, yeah, that is
yeah,
interesting. I forgot about
this
that part.
huge moments. And I also, with that same dream, it's so funny because I remember the man with the nursery rhymes book. I had a dream about that, just like from like the hip down of
Mm.
this. I had that dream, just that blip, which to
And
me
that's
is
great. That's funny because I don't remember, like, I don't recall, like, I recall basically from like the waist down or whatever. Like, I can see the book, him carrying it, but there's like nothing, like, there's no
exactly.
visual. Yeah.
And I
That's,
remember I told you, and I said, Urania, did you have a dream about this already?
yeah,
Like, did you tell me about this? Because this is really familiar. And when you were like, no, this is like the first time I had this dream, I was like, I dreamt about just that
that's crazy.
aspect, which to me, it's like we already have pretty strong connection. And then when you throw in little things like that, it's like, okay, wow.
Yeah, this is, yeah. So I'm really excited to see what comes forth. I mean, as far as like this journey into the journals, that's going to be 2025. And yeah, and I will also share too that I am like, so this year was just my grandmother's 20th anniversary of her transition. And then 2025 is my 20th anniversary of my spiritual awakening. And I think it's really interesting that like my grandmother is literally a spirit guide. Like she, and I have like going back to 2018 when I requested to, and I tried to do it through dream work. I tried to do it through Edgar Casey's like dream incubation technique. And I didn't receive that in the dream. I actually had a really profound dream from that night with my grandmother, and it was lucid. But as far as my spirit guides, maybe a couple days after, in like the deep meditations that I did, I received the names, and I just like came out of it and just started writing the names, and I wrote it in order of domination, so to speak, in order of, or dominance, domination. And my grandmother was on there, and it just said grandmother. It didn't say her name. It was just grandmother. And I was like, that's interesting because other ones were like Archangel Michael, Green
Mm-hmm.
Tara, Isis, um and so I was like, oh, and I didn't, and I was still very distant and afraid of that connection. And now it makes so much sense seeing, and I was like, I have the proof. She showed up as a spirit guide like a long
I
time.
love that.
So
I
it's really
love
interesting,
that.
like, and it's like, and that was like a year apart. It was like I had my spiritual awakening. So yeah, this is going to be a really interesting, transition. Speaking of solar returns, it's going to be a whole new decade. I'm turning 40 in 2025. So that's going to be really freaking interesting. And it's just like, it feels like a brand new start of like something amazing, I'm going to call it. So I'm excited.
I'm excited too. I feel like this is just with each new decade, it's like a new discovery of yourself in this
Yeah.
existence, and things change, and for the good, sometimes for the not so good, but overall you grow into more of
Yeah.
the person that you're supposed to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we are at the top of the hour here. Alexis, do you have anything else that you want to share before we wrap it up?
No, I loved this topic today. I love this segment. I'm really excited for our check-in at the end of the next cycle. And yeah, I this was just so great. And I thank you, and I thank you all for showing up with us tonight. It was just wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing in the chat. It's been flowing in the chat. They've been also conversing with one another, which I really enjoy
I
seeing.
love that.
And yeah, so thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Courtney. Thank you, Mary, for submitting your dreams today for this episode. And as we mentioned, we're going to do this once a month. We're going to have a dream share. We're going to reflect on the previous lunar cycle and share whatever profound dreams are in our space right now, whatever we want to, just put out there and see what comes forth through, our perspectives. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how the next lunar cycle goes. Because you and I started on a very like high creative vibe. And so I'm
Yes.
excited to see how that shows up.
Oh yeah.
Oh, we have a new person in the chat. The name is Ashes to Ashes. What's up, y'all? Saw you guys last week. Cool show. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you for
Yes.
showing up and
Thank you
commenting.
for commenting. We love to see people here. We love to, yeah, just see when new people are connecting and that it's resonating. And yeah, we just love it. We love the support and thank you for being here. All right. Well, we will be here live next Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So stay tuned for that. And if you are new, definitely give us a like on YouTube and subscribe to our channel. Follow us on Spotify if you're listening in. And thank you so much, everyone. Sweet dreams.
Sweet dreams.